Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the Babbling Pastor Podcast, the one and only podcast you'll ever need, with your host Michael and
Rob.
the podcast that is going to solve all of your problems, all of them. Okay, I'm gonna turn. And then that music is so epic; it just sets the tone. Like it's just this. Just I feel like it's one of those videos that would come up on YouTube that has like this like really inspirational like quote from this long speech, and it's got that music playing behind it. You're like, man, I am gonna get up at 2:00 in the morning and be productive tomorrow, and then you don't. But you were really inspired for that second to do that. So that's just kind of the feel I get from that. That's I mean, here, hold on. Like, don't you feel inspired already?
I can't hear that. I can't hear it.
You can't hear it? Oh man.
No.
That's sad. I'm gonna have to figure out how to fix that. I thought you could hear that. Man.
I can't hear it.
Well, I guess that's a good point. Maybe the listeners can't hear it either. I'm gonna have to figure that out, because if not, I sound like an idiot. So, in this set of podcasts, guys, if you've listened to the last two episodes, you know what's going on. If you haven't, you need to go back and listen to those episodes. This set of podcasts, these 4 sets, we're on number 3 today. That we're going through, looking at tweets, and I'm presenting them to Rob because I'm on Twitter against my better mental health and judgment. I'm on Twitter, so I see these often. Rob doesn't necessarily get on there, and he's smarter for that. He is 100% better off for not doing that. But I am now bringing Twitter to him.
I do have a Twitter account.
Oh.
But I haven't looked at it. It hasn't been on my phone or anything in probably like 6 years or something.
Well,
like
smart.
I'm never on Twitter. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it kind of, I mean, it was never great, but it definitely shifted after like the 2016 election. So, you know, last 6 years, you got out before the boat really hit the iceberg, so to speak. So, you know, so what we're going to do, we're going to jump right into it. This is a shorter one. The last two have been longer. This is going to be a shorter one. Basically just covers 2 points. So are you ready? Are you ready? Are you kind of...
Okay.
Have you prepared? Okay, here we go. USA. So...
Okay, hit me.
Here is a tweet from a guy named Brandon.
Oh,
probably
this guy.
You've probably heard of Brandon. Brandon is probably somebody that out of all of these tweets people have heard of. He's sort of made a name for himself, which to his credit, he has plainly said that he's a heretic. He's plainly said he's not Orthodox. So just don't hit him with that, because he's already denied both of those, or he's already stated those 2 things. So this right here is actually, I guess I need to clarify. This isn't just a tweet that he made. This is actually a reply to a retweet he made. Like, he retweeted a video of some politicians talking about God being a nationalist. And so he retweeted this, and this is what he said. So he said, God is not a nationalist. She's a globalist. So there's a couple things here to unpack a little bit. I'm not sure which... The wonderful thing about these podcasts that me and Rob do is that they are not planned out, and they are not like at all research or scripted. It's just like, boom, here's the thought. So what's your... I mean, by your reaction, you already kind of know of Brandon. So this isn't like... So you kind of have an idea. So what's your...
Well, he's like I don't know, I guess, if this is true or not, but he seems like one of the most famed out there for even people that aren't, you know, like aren't involved in Twitter and that sort of thing. He seems like one of the more famous progressive Christian.
He sort of made a name for himself.
Right.
Yeah. I don't
Right.
actually know what his job is, like his real make money job. Maybe it is just being Twitter famous. But
it's probably triggering people.
But I know he kind of sort of got a name for himself because I guess he did a few debates with James White way back when. before he really sort of went further away from orthodoxy. It was sort of when he was still in the camp. He used to be a pastor. He is not anymore, to my understanding. He stepped away from that. I know he has he's an author. I know that he wrote a couple books, so maybe that's where he gets some of his money.
Yeah, those must be super intellectual.
So, where did he did go to college somewhere? I forget where. There's a couple of followers that went to college with him. Followers from the Instagram page. I forget where that he went though. Moody. He went to Moody Bible College. That's where he went. At least for like his undergrad. He may have a graduate, but for his undergrad, he went to Moody. So, not that this tweet is a reflection of Moody. I don't know a lot about Moody. I don't know. I don't know if they would say this. But.
I don't. So okay, there are lots of I think mainstream Christian colleges and seminaries that I wouldn't treat as Christian colleges and seminaries at this point in history, but none of them, as far as I know, except for maybe
Union Theological
what is it?
Seminary.
Union. Yeah.
We both
Except
were on the
maybe
same
them.
page. Yeah.
Like I don't know any seminary apart from maybe that one that would teach that God is a she. Or that's even something that you could say or think about, right? This goes back to the shack too, as another wonderful little book that if that's absolutely sarcasm, that has so many theological lies about who God is, and one of them is that God is portrayed by a woman. Look, it's nothing against women. Look, we haven't even shifted gears, Michael, from the last one.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah.
but look, Brandan doesn't take the scriptures as anything really at all. I don't know what he would say about that, but that's what anyone who takes the scriptures seriously would say about him. That there's no weight whatsoever behind them as far as how we should live, direction we should take, any of that stuff. To say the word progressive Christian, this guy and the people who are like him, who are this off base, um, are what make the people who are struggling with things and referring to themselves as progressive Christians. Look, this guy is the definition that everyone thinks of when you hear the term progressive Christianity.
I think
This
that would
kind
be
of thing.
fair. Yeah, that would be a fair statement.
And this is coming from a guy who's not involved, right? Like the whole premise of this podcast this month is that I have no idea who most of these people are, what they believe, any of this stuff. But when I think of progressive Christianity, this is the face on the dollar bill, right? And he gives everyone who even has a question about a bad name, because this is not Christianity at all. This is paganism. It is sinful, demonic garbage. That is what this guy portrays. The first time that I heard of him or saw anything with him, he was on a stage sitting down, presumably a church, when he was a pastor, quote unquote, which he never was in real life. But when he held that title and he was sitting in front of his church in a chair on a stage, and he started affirming them in their polyamory and all sorts of other things. And immediately I was like, this guy has no basis for literally anything that he says. Like there's all you would have to do to defeat him, I think, in any sort of debate, get him laughed out of the place, would be to consistently repeat, by what stand, like what are you standing on? But why would you say that? What's the foundation for that? Where did you get that idea? Like because he doesn't have anything to say. Like he's literally just saying things from nowhere and saying that that's gospel truth, right? So God is not a nationalist. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I did it. I think I triggered you. I think I got you
triggered
on this one.
without even the without even the tweet, right?
Well, I one thing before you go on, I didn't even realize until you said Brandan that I was like, oh, I guess it is pronounced Brandan instead of Brandon. It's Brandan. So
Yeah,
that's just a fun
I
little
don't
thing
know.
for me now. Anyway, go on. Yeah, nationalism.
That so God is not a nationalist. So just like progressive Christianity, nationalism means something different to everybody and their mom in this wonderful age of my own definitions for everything. And so when you think of the term nationalism, you think of all sorts of crazy things. Some people think of nationalism and they think patriotism, 4th of July, let's celebrate. Um, and so nationalist means different things to all sorts of different people, depending on your background, where you grew up, what things you read and watch, and all that stuff. Right. So it's really not a fair conversation to have with somebody unless you're in front of them to ask, what do you mean by that? Um, but
Yeah, and I think that's
just based,
important, especially when we're dealing with progressivism or national. Like a lot of terminology now. Like I like your
yeah,
title. Like I feel like when my son has kids or my daughter has kids and they're in school, that title that you gave, this is the age of where I make up my own definitions. Is just should be the title over
right.
the entire section. Yeah.
So I googled nationalist. Okay, this is the definition we're going with because I googled it and this is the first thing that pops up. And Google is not Christian by any stretch of the imagination.
They're not?
Um,
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's weird. And it would be it would be cool if Christian companies adopted some of the things they do, like sliding boards, to get down to the level that you work on. But a noun version, which is what we're assuming, nationalist, um, a person who strongly identifies with their own nation and vigorously supports its interest, especially to the exclusion or detriment of the interests of other nations. And so that I think would be the definition. That last bit, right, would be the thing that is um, in. It seems like in view here because he also says globalist as the other option.
That'd be
So it's not about
interesting to know when that definition, if it got added to and when it got added to. Because that doesn't seem like that would have
yeah
always been the definition. Maybe it was always the definition. I don't know. But yeah. Anyway, I think you're correct in
yeah
regards to how he's using it. That seems to be an accurate kind of, yeah.
yeah because he goes from nationalist to globalist, which seems to be the two major options, right? I mean, they're you could talk about different caveats to that kind of thing forever and ever and
Yeah.
never
You're
get
either
anywhere.
for
But
you or you're for everybody, essentially. Yeah.
right, yeah. And so okay, so there are a couple of concepts here. First of all, there is a sense in which a person must be for themselves, um, because if I am not, so this is something we've all heard for a long time, right? If I am not healthy, taking care of myself in some fashion, um, if I um, if I'm not in my own Bible and in prayer and have my own relationship, then I'm absolutely going to be no help to others in their spiritual walks. I might be able to repeat some junk that I hear from other places, and I might be beneficial in so much as I can have things that other people uh, say bounce off of me and go to someone else. Um, I mean, you could say the same thing with like health, right? If I eat McDonald's for 3 meals a day, at some point I'm going to die of a heart attack, and that will not be helpful to my family. I will be incapable of helping anyone else. Period. So now let me put that in a national, uh, like take it there, right? There is a sense in which unless America, which is the context here, unless America is a healthy nation, at least functionally, she will not be helpful to any other nation. Um, uh, one of one of the very things that we seem to look at as a villain nowadays is wealth, of any sort, right? Now, I think that the motive a lot of times for that is because other people want wealth, which is evil in their eyes. So it doesn't really make any sense. So it's more about theft and covetousness than anything else, a lot of times. But if wealth is evil, right, and yet the wealth that exists in American churches and has gone out to the nations in helpful ways that could absolutely not have, like, there are lots of other nations and people groups and difficult situations that would have had no aid whatsoever had God not blessed this nation with what we have. And so that, all that to say, there is a sense in which we do have to look at our own interests as a nation, um in uh so that we will be stable and healthy enough to care for other nations the way that, a globalist would like to, right? Um, so, uh, to me, this is a concept and a talking point that could go on forever, um, because the extreme kind of nationalism that you see in the church at times would be, I think, the people who want to sing God Bless America in the church service, and America the Beautiful, like we're here to worship America, flag where the pulpit should, like this kind of stuff. And people automatically, like the kind of people who don't pray for Joe Biden or Kamala Harris ever, who don't ever think about it, who wish him dead, like those kinds of folks, right? Absolutely, they're wrong. They're wrong. um Now, his statement that God is not a nationalist, of course that's true. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like he doesn't live in America, or any nation here. God isn't even a nationalist in the sense, of Israel. Even for the premillennial dispensationalist,
Yeah, I was
God
about to
would
say,
not be
yeah,
a
make
nationalist.
that tie. Yeah, make sure that
Yeah, even for them, I don't think that they would say that God is a nationalist in the sense that he's meaning, because the very premise of Israel is that they will be a blessing to all the nations. That God would begin with Abraham, make a great nation that would make him eventually father of many nations, which is what Abraham means. Um, and so, in that sense, he's right. God is not a nationalist,
And on
right?
that
When
point,
it
before
comes to that.
yeah, before we go any further out from that, I think that one, people just need to sit on that for a minute because there are people that I think know that, well, like what you just said, they know that, but then they maybe haven't thought that through or they don't speak in that manner. So they'll talk about, for example, hey, we've got to take care of Israel. We've got to do this. If you're on the
Oh,
side of Israel,
yep.
you're on the side of God. So they know that Israel is meant to be an example to all nations, and in the sense of how they were, the whole purpose of the Old Testament, you going out and them going out and showing who this God is to everyone. But yet they talk sometimes in regards to that in terms that may sound like God is a nationalist, specifically for Israel, without maybe believing that, or maybe they do believe that, and that's just a conversation that needs to happen. But I think that what you said right there is incredibly important in fleshing that out so that people really think about that and think through sort of their thought process and how they see things or how they say things and how it's communicated. But I just want to make sure it kind of pressed on that a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep going.
So, I also would make the point that God is not necessarily a globalist either. God is, um, not of this world. God created this world. God is chiefly and foremost and firstly about God. So if you're gonna categorize God into something like this, you would have to say that God is a a goddess. um, because at the
He's
end of
for
the
his
day,
own interest. Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, everything is for his glory. And again, to touch on the very first episode we did when it comes to penal substitution, this is no different in that God's interests being his chief goal, the thing that he cares about most is not you. It's his glory. And that is not something I make up. That's in the scriptures time and time again. It's look at all the times, man, in the Old Testament when he does something, even when he protects Israel, that they may know that I am the Lord, right? That kind of thing. Um, and so to again touch on what we touched on the first time, that if that were me, that would be incredibly selfish and evil. But because God is the ultimate and he is the best being in existence and he is truly good and righteous and just and holy and perfect, because he is all of those things, there's nothing higher than him to so long story short, God is not a nationalist, and I would say God is not a globalist. God is a godist, and because he is, um, we we know that God doesn't have to look after the interests of a nation or nations or a globe. He is chiefly for his glory. And so, whatever glorifies him at the end of the day, the people who are in hell and the people who are with him in his presence, both will bring glory to God at the end of the day. Um, and I don't even really to me, him adding she in there
Yeah. Just a
is
trigger, a
is
purposely
like,
triggering. Yeah.
yeah, I like he does that on purpose. Like I don't know if he even believes that. I think that he just does this. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I would say no. I would
Um,
100% agree with you. I think that specifically added there to so he's got a one punch over here, a two punch over here, and then a middle punch right
yeah,
there in the middle. I mean, that's the idea.
right. Yeah, and what he doesn't realize is that for the Christian who studies the scriptures and looks at them as infallible, inerrant, the inspired word of God, God breathed, his punches, he punches like a girl, right? Like at the end of the day, his punches are weak. And how you described the 1-2 punch thing or whatever, that this is all just a complete and utter joke. No one should take Brandan seriously, in the least bit. We should pray for him and preach the gospel to him and hope that he comes to know God, the God of the Bible, in a saving way, because he is not a Christian and not even a progressive one.
Yeah, and I think he's gotten to the point where he actually admits that as well. That he's not.
Yeah,
He's yeah. So he knows that. He's fully aware of that. Thankfully, it's just
isn't
the
that
Holy
the
Spirit working in his life. Yeah.
isn't that the natural working out of progressive Christianity, though?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Like
There's
I mean,
the
at the end of the
yeah.
day, if you continue down that path, it leads to that. It leads to just the admission that, look, yeah, no, when it comes to the scriptures and Christian history and all of that, no, if that's the definition, that's not me.
Yeah,
That
and
seems to be the logical
that
conclusion.
is I've seen that happen, and I'm seeing that happen. You can pretty much track it. It depends on it's different as far as how long it takes for everyone to do it, but yeah, definitely that seems to be the trace. Is eventually you just go into this point where there's not really any belief at all. But anyway, with that being said, there's that one. Next week, if you're interested, we will. You can come back, and we're gonna have another one for Rob. But I think there's a lot of layers to that one, as far as nationalism, globalism. You know, a lot of just even lenses you're looking through there. But a lot of that is deliberately triggering to people to get them mad and to get a reaction. And one of the things, as I hope that you're getting from this, is that how to react to that, to understand. Oh, this here is purposefully there, like you said with the she part. This is purposely there to get me kind of riled up, so I'm going to ignore that part and then address the stuff that I can address in a way that's helpful. So, all right, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. If you like it, like, share, subscribe, all the cool stuff, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.